Welcome back to Masterclass. I am your host, Livio, and on this episode, I'm going to talk about products that bear on the label the word Aperitivo. Now, if you've watched my videos before, you know that there's really three different ways the word Aperitivo works in the Italian language. Number one is any drink you drink before a meal, if you're at a ritual, is called an aperitivo. So it could be beer, it could be a glass of champagne, it could be a cocktail, it could be anything. Description number one. Description number two is an event that is usually happening around 6 p.m. That is the Italian version of the happy hour, where you socialize, you drink, you eat a little bit of food. That event is called the aperitivo. Description number three is actually a liqueur style of product or a fortified wine that has decided to bear the name Aperitivo on the label. These usually have a characteristic. The line is really, how should I say, fine between some of these, whether they are aperitivi, whether they are bitter cocktails, whether they should just bear the name liqueur, whether they should just bear the name cordial. So what I want to do today is I want to take all these products, because they all share that word on their label, and I'm going to try to figure out what is their point of similarity in order that we could try to get rid of that muddy water. Yeah, I know it's going to be a delicious journey for me, because aperitivi-based products are culturally extremely relevant and historically have been around for many, many years. To think about it, before people would go to bars to drink, they would go to pharmacies to cure themselves. And they would basically take these medicinal beverages, and as they would drink, they would get to know the people that were also taking that medicine at the pharmacy at the same time. So inadvertently, these people were basically going through a happy hour, or they were going through an aperitivo hour. So these products really excite me. The first product that I'm going to talk to you about is this product here called Bianco Sarti. Now, Bianco Sarti comes from the city of Bologna. It is 28% alcohol by volume. It's a little higher in alcohol than just about any of the other ones here. I started with it first because the color, I started from the lightest color to the darkest, if that makes sense, just so I will always know which order I have tasted these in. This product started being made in the early 1940s, or I should say in the mid 1940s. It was 1947, although the Sarti distillery was opened far before then. Like I mentioned, 28% alcohol by volume. It has this gold saffron color, almost looks like a warm Chardonnay, and I'm getting some gentian aromas to it. There's definitely a banana in here. Not a big banana, just kind of like a creme de banana, a hint of banana notes to it. The bitter gentian notes really kick in once I drink it. It becomes very, very bitter, sits on the palate. They actually market themselves as a aperitivo style Amaro. So they're kind of, as you know, in my system, crossing over two different lines of beverages, because in my opinion, you're either an Amaro or an aperitivo. An Amaro can be an aperitivo when you add a splash of soda, or you incorporate it in something that subdues the sweetness of it, but they're not usually aperitivis right out of the gate. This one here is almost a borderline between the bitter notes that you would find in Campari with that nice banana gentian flavor to it. Really, really exciting. Some of these flavors are hard to describe because they're proprietary, right? You can't really find a lot of things on the planet that taste like Bianco Sarti. You'll just have to kind of imagine that banana gentian flavor to it. Yeah, and the more I taste it, the more banana-y it comes. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that this ingredient here is awesome for cocktails, because it can give you a good balance between some bitter complexity and some tropical banana notes to it. And that one is that. Moving on to the next one, this is obviously Nonino. They are very famous for their Amaro, the Amaro Quintessenza, and they're even more famous for their world-class grappas and grape distillates. This product here is made from Udine, and it is 21% alcohol by volume. It basically is an infusion of botanical herbs, flowers, and fruits. They're all selected, hand selected according to a specific flavor that they are trying to get. Why am I opening this bottle? So this one here also has that gold color to it, but definitely far more bright and a little haziness to it. So it's got this hazy gold color to it. On the nose, there is a touch of flowers, and I'm having a hard time detecting what flower. It's just flower-y and fruity. That fruit is a little citrusy. That flower is a spring flower, but I can't pin it. Very, very delicate. Very delicate, very floral, very elegant. In a perfect world, I would have tasted these in different orders because they are polar opposites. This one's much lower in alcohol. This one's much more delicate and refined in the flavors. This guy here was big, bold, and bittery. Very nice, very, very nice. Think of candied fruits and think of some little floral notes. Super delicate, super easy. As we're getting into the spring season, this here is definitely something to look out for. The next one that I'm going to go ahead and do is the Ramazzotti Rosato. Here is the bottle. It says Aperitivo Rosato. The color is really interesting. It's almost like somebody took a pink product and threw a little bit of orange in it. It's almost like somebody took a Cosmo cocktail and threw some Aperol in it and made it this orange meets pink color to it. Really interesting. I don't know that I've seen anything out there that had a color like this before. Oh wow, this is big on the hibiscus flower. Big on the candied orange. A little bit of briny. I'm getting almost like there's a touch of olive brine inside of it, buried behind the hibiscus and buried behind the big orange flavors. Floral and fruity. Okay, let's go ahead and give it a taste. Nice, nice, nice. It's intended to be mixed, if you ask me, because the candied orange flavors are a notch high, which is in essence what they're trying to achieve anyway, because you're probably putting this with some champagne or some Prosecco or some soda, and you still really want those flavors to come out. This product here says Milano on it. Please comment below if I'm wrong, but I believe it is now made in Asti, and it comes into us at 15% alcohol by volume. So one of the things to think about when we're talking about aperitivi so far is the traditional ones are sitting a little bit lower than the 20s. This one here was a little bit higher, but this one here wasn't my traditional aperitivo flavor. Let's move on to Aperol, of course, the most popular one, created in 1919. This here was created in Padova. I'm not sure if it's still made there, so again, if you know better, please do comment below. But this product here comes very low in alcohol. It comes at 11%, and it's an iconic brand. So let me go ahead and take a look at this. Now, this is what I mean with the difference in color, right? This was the Rosato. This is the Aperol. This one here definitely goes more into the deeper red orange flavor than the other one. And Aperol just has that really distinctive rootiness. Very, very distinctive of Aperol. Because it's 11%, it's super easy. It's not trying to give you big, bold flavors on the nose, but when you drink it, flavors will pop. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Just very, very nice. Now, often I get the question, what is the difference between Campari and Aperol? And I think you'll find that the answer is that the Campari will be so much higher in bitterness, which also means it inadvertently needs to be higher in sugar, which also means kind of inadvertently it needs to be higher in alcohol. Now, I'm not saying that Campari and Aperol have the same ingredients and that there's just one is more of an expression of the other. But what I am saying is, in broad strokes, what to expect, and the difference between Campari and Aperol is exactly the fact that Campari is more expressive in those bitter notes, it's more expressive in those fruit notes, and it's higher in alcohol. Aperol just has that very distinctive flavor where it starts a little bit rooty, a little bit barky, and then it just cranks up a little bit into some orange grapefruit flavors that is really nice. So now let's move on to Louisiana. So we are now in America, Peychaud. Peychaud follows the 11% ABV process or alcohol content that you would find in Aperol. So obviously Peychaud is an iconic brand that is made in Louisiana. Brings over, I guess, 150 years of heritage since they've started making their bitter brands. And this, I have to say, is smelling a hell of a lot like Aperol. Oh wow, this smells and tastes a lot similar to Aperol. So I want to pivot for a second and try them both back to back. Wow, okay, so I'm not sure if buried in 3 ounces of Prosecco and an ounce of soda water, if you'll really be able to detect that much of the difference. But on the palate back to back, Aperol showcases a little bit more of a balance between the rootiness and those fruity flavors. This one here showcases a little bit more of the rootiness, just a tad more. But wow, I'm shocked by the similarities that I found in these two products here. Again, both 11%. We will move on to the next one, which is Select. Now, Select says aperitif, not aperitivo, but if you look at the cap, it will say aperitivo on top. So it spells aperitivo in 2 different ways. This product here was created in the 1920s, or I should say in 1920. It comes to us with higher alcohol content. So this one here is at 17.5% ABV. Didn't mention that it was born in Venice. And there's a lot more perfume involved in this one here on the aroma. Obviously the color here is a little bit richer, deeper red than what we've had so far. Oh yeah, so much more perfumey with a little bit more bitter notes. So in this case here, I'm getting less of fruitiness. I'm getting less of the candied citrus, candied orange flavor. I'm getting more of to offset that bitterness rather than getting that fruit, I'm getting a lot more of perfume fragrances. Yep, kind of like piney spices. Yeah, I would not be surprised if there's some juniper in this product. Again, if you know, comment below and let me know. Lovely product from Venice. And by the way, at the end of the video, I am gonna try to explain, I guess, what I would do with each one of these, understanding that, you know, you could throw them all in the spritz and they'll all the spritz will always taste good. Obviously, it will taste different, but I'll try my best to figure out the difference. This takes us to the very last one, which is called Montanaro 6 p.m. Why would they give it the name 6 p.m.? Because it's that ritual in Italy where at 6 p.m. when you get off work, you go, you hang out with your friends, you drink, you socialize, you nibble on some food before you go to dinner. So really creative name here. This product here is created in Alba, which is in Piedmont, is in the Piedmont region of Italy. It's a very firm aroma, and I'm having a hard time explaining what I'm getting out of it. There's a cherry in here. Not that there's a cherry in here, but there's a cherry on my aroma, like a dark black cherry aroma to it. A little bit of a winey aroma to it, almost like a white wine freshness or acidic whiff in it. Yeah, this definitely falls on, it's funny, if you watch my vermouth video, my sweet vermouth video, I think you should check it out. We'll leave the link below. But in my sweet vermouth video, I talk about how some vermouths just showcase a lot of bright cherry notes, cherry and berry notes. I am getting them in here, which doesn't shock me because Montanaro also makes a vermouth. So chances are they might be sharing some of those ingredients, but this is a really lovely, lovely product because it's giving me something that none of these has given me, which is a little bit more of that berry cherry flavor profile to it. Now comes the hard part. If you watch this video because you want me to tell you which one is the best and which one is not, you came to the wrong place because I am that type of person, and we at Master Your Glass are can-doers. We find something to do with anything and everything possible. And so Bianco Sarti here to me is more of a digestif style of an Amaro. So I would definitely go more towards either a boozy Negroni style cocktail, so something high in alcohol that's really gonna be all booze, or I would almost sip it towards the end of the meal. Nonino and Rosato, to me, both I found to be an extremely delicate version of a spritz that you can make, one where the aroma of the liqueur you're mixing the soda and the Prosecco with is intended to be a little bit more delicate. It's a little bit more refined and easy. You're gonna taste more Prosecco in your spritz with these two than you're gonna taste it in any of the other ones. That's the impression I got out of these. Moving on to Aperol and Peychaud, I did find them to be very, very similar. I think both of them can go really well in a die-hard classic style spritz, with the Aperol showing off just a little bit more of those rooty notes, whereas the Peychaud just showing off a little bit more of those fruity notes, but nonetheless both very similar in style. Aperitivo Select, this one does have a little bit more of alcohol content. It also does come through with a little bit more sweetness. So of course, if you check out the Select website, they'll probably tell you that it's an ideal spritz, which it probably is. But what I like this, again, because I have to compare it to everybody else, so I have to find a special spot for it, not just any random spot, is I find that this is also a very, very good option for a more subdued Negroni, because that 17% alcohol, the bigger, bolder, sweeter flavors can also be attributed to being somewhat of a more mellow version of a Campari. So it crosses the line between the two in a really nice way. So if your Campari in your Negroni is a little much, maybe this is the way to go with it. And last but not least, Montanaro. I really appreciated those cherry berry notes. And so I'm going to something like, in Spain, you will get vermouth over ice with a splash of soda and an orange in it. And it's really those bright cherry flavors of the vermouth that really pop nicely in that scenario. So I'm almost thinking that this one here, I would just like to put a couple of ounces on it over ice, splash of soda, some form of a citrus, and just sit and kick back and enjoy those cherry berry flavors that I found in it. Now that we're at the end of the tasting, I promised you at the beginning of the video that I was going to try to find some sort of a line that would unmuddy the waters of what on earth makes an aperitivo and why it's labeled that way. And I think the common line that I found in each and every one of these was that there was that balance of rootiness and slight bitterness to some sort of a flower or a fruit or a perfume. So it's rooty bitter with something else. But we have to make sure to add to that the alcohol content is low, because all of these are very low. And I think that was the line between it. So now somebody might say, well, Livio, on your other video, which I recommend you go watch, I'll leave the link below, you talk about bitters having the same flavor profiles. And so to address that, I feel like these two here, right, I'm gonna move them over here, are the two that could technically cross over the line. These could cross over the line and be delicate forms of bitters, like in the liking of Campari or Luxardo Bianco, where they're a little bit bigger in alcohol, a little bit bigger in bitterness, a little bit bigger in rootiness. These can cross the line and be on the lower end of the spectrum, or like they were today, they can be on the higher spectrum of the aperitivo. So here's where the water is a little muddy, and I don't want to disrespect the brands, because I think that actually shows off a lot of versatility of these brands. So good for them. Over here, we have the very common aperitivo style that is slight rootiness, slight bitterness, slight herbaceousness, balanced by either a candied fruit, some sort of a flower or two or three or four, and or some sort of a perfume. So hopefully that clarifies a little bit what to expect from an aperitivo. And then on the other side, we have the bitters. And then in the middle here, we have these two fellows, which could actually kind of go both ways. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Masterclass, because the traditions of aperitivi is really deeply rooted in a bunch of European cultures. And on Master Your Glass, that is what we love to talk about. So if you like this episode, please give it a like. Please make sure you share. And I'll see you soon.